I want to talk about ghosting in academia. There was a great article that came out by Professor Simha in Nature about ghosting in academia. And, we all resonate with this process. What is it that happens? So you might have a couple of correspondents, you think people are engaged, and all of a sudden they just disappear. And you're like, what happened? And early on, I think for myself, and I still, even to this day, I internalize a lot of that stuff. And I think about, like, I'm problematic. I am a fool. What was I thinking? What did I do? This is my problem. And I have learned how to deal with this is I realize that the problem is actually not me. It often is not yourself. And that's where you have to think about that. If you imagine this is like being a door-to-door salesperson. The whole career is selling ideas and creating ideas and getting people to believe in you. That's the biggest thing with all of this. Now, I have been building the Reciprocity Project for a long time, and a lot of people don't believe in me, and a lot of people don't believe in the project. They think it's stupid. And a lot of people, and it could be many people sort of close to me, right? And in all sorts of different areas, don't believe in it, and they don't get it, and they don't necessarily resonate with what I'm doing. And so, yes, I do get ghosted a lot, and there's all these weird social norms that happen where, people, if they don't believe in you, they will figure out ways to sort of discredit or distance themselves or, ostracize you and everybody else that is affiliated with that. That is very, very, very real. The whole process is very real in academia. And if there is a hint of illegitimacy, the distancing happens and then they disappear, right? Because they're uncertain, they don't know what you're about, they don't understand, even if they know who you are personally and they're very deeply ingrained with yourself, they might not be comfortable with the sort of uncertainty with what you're actually doing. And you have to understand that if that happens to you, they sort of disappear and they stop, corresponding, or they disengage, they distance, whatever that looks like. You got to realize that the problem is actually on them. They're struggling with the uncertainty, the anxiety of what you're actually doing. It's not you within the process. And it's taken me years to process this and think about this. And every time it happens to me, I still feel the same way. I still feel like I internalize it. But sort of do this practice. There's a good practice that was written in this article. You can check it out. It's in Nature. I think it's May 26, 2023. And it's just look at if you try to contact 3 times, it's the 3 strikes you're out. Try it 3 times. If it doesn't, nobody responds, it's disappeared, then move on to somebody else. The way that I've been processing this and thinking about this, it's like you are a door-to-door salesperson, right? Or you're doing sales, right? That's where the selling the ideas and creating ideas, you're just kind of doing sales. You repeat several times, see what happens. If they don't engage, distance yourself. Now, the problem with academia, the problem with the whole research process is that you become friends, they become sort of colleagues, and then they disappear on you. And that's the tough part with dealing with it, is that you build these relationships and then they disappear when you do something that is a social norm violation. And that's where you got to be like, fine, I'm totally good. I'm going to walk my path and do my thing and build my own community regardless of what's going on. And if you look at many of the senior folks that are in any scientific field, they will say the same thing. Just walk your path, do your thing, and build your community around that. Almost everybody is not going to believe that particular idea because it's unusual, it's different, and getting everybody to buy into what you're doing is not possible. That's why you see this sort of very big fault lines, political fault lines that happens in academic departments. You see it within communities, is because somebody just gets their guard up. And how do you actually get these sort of adversaries together and bring them together and have a conversation with these two individuals? Frankly, it often depends on the individual that feels threatened. So how do you sort of destigmatize? How do you remove that sort of ostracism? You often can't. So you just walk forward and do your thing and be kind and generous and do good stuff, right? I want you to think about somebody, and this is like, I know this is a bad analogy and you might sort of take offense to this, but think about like somebody like Mother Teresa, right? And what they would do, right? Mother Teresa was this Catholic nun in Calcutta, um, uh, and at the time she was doing a lot of good, going and working with all the people that work in the streets. And if you think about that, the amount of rejection that you would have got along the way, or she would have got along the way, because they didn't believe in her, um, you just have to be okay with that. She would have had to have been okay that, hey, you know what? They just weren't ready. They weren't at the right time. It wasn't the moment that it should matter for them. And that's where you just got to keep walking forward, doing your thing, and processing it that you are doing the right thing, that you are actually in building something, doing something, and you just walk forward and let other people deal with those troubles, right? And if you realize that and you start looking around, you realize that often those people that have troubles with you and they're ghosting, it's because that they have other things going on that are either deeper inside of them or something's happening to them, and other people have the same experiences with them. You begin to realize that these people might be very just difficult people to work with in general, and you don't realize that when you start out. They look like they're, very famous, or, you're enamored with them in all sorts of different ways. You realize, that they're just people too. And that's where you just keep walking forward. You do your thing, you're happy with who you are, and you smile, you be kind, and you just repeat. That's it. Live your life and don't worry about other people regarding you in different ways. All right, take care. Bye.